These twin brothers have been separated since birth and grew up worlds apart. And they've never met.
I'm so sorry.
Until now.
What are we talking about today? Watches that have a twin from another brand.
Give it up, gonna be all that's gonna be. Give it up, gonna be all right.
Hi guys, this is the first show since, come on man, use your words. Since that announcement featuring Ariel, and I've been asked a few times if there is an updated timeline, and there isn't one. So instead of beginning each show by saying there is not an updated timeline, just know that me and my team, and yes, it is an entire team, it's obviously being led by me and Ariel, but there is an entire team in place because of the magnitude of this event. And so as soon as there is an updated status that we can provide, believe me, I will be the first or one of the first ones to be able to announce this. So let's get on to the show. Let's talk about watches that have a kind of sort of semi-quasi twin from another brand. Let's begin with the Cartier Tank versus the Hermes Cape Cod. They both share a similar and unique look, that nice vintagey look. They both have a similar price point between $5,000 to $7,000, and they both come from an uber luxury jewelry / accessories house. So if I'm looking at the Cartier Tank, I might also consider the Hermes Cape Cod. Let's begin with the Cartier Tank. The Cartier Tank has a very storied history. This is a very legendary, iconic piece, and unlike some of the bigger watches that were worn by everybody, such as the Panerai that was worn by The Rock, everyone from The Rock to Zac Efron, the Cartier Tank has been adorning men's wrists from a very long time all the way up to the present. I mean, it started on the wrists of Andy Warhol and Muhammad Ali, and even today with Ryan Reynolds and John Hamm. This is just a classic piece that's always been in style and always will continue to be in style. This watch, even though some people might consider it dainty, has been around and is a proven watch. I remember seeing this watch a lot, even in the big watch era where watches were 44 millimeters and above. This watch would always stand out. And I would see people wearing this with a denim jacket or t-shirt and jeans. And I always thought, and I could always identify this watch and always thought this was a great looking piece. Both Cartier and Hermes have come a long way in distinguishing themselves from being just another fashion watch to being considered a real watch. And that's because they now are using in-house movements. Cartier is owned by Richemont, and they used to get their movements from, I think it was like JLC and Vacheron, but now they have their own in-house movements with the benefit of being under the Richemont umbrella. And Hermes used to always make their dials in-house and source their mechanic movements, but now they're making their dials and movements in-house. So Hermes and Cartier has come a really long way to be considered legitimate watches. And I agree, I think these are great watches. In about 2005, 2006, I had a Cartier, the Roadster. I no longer have that Roadster, I sold it since, but Cartier back then always had a certain stigma. They didn't have the in-house movements. It was a lot of times they were made with quartz, so it wasn't considered a real watch. And I remember some polite comments from people by saying, "Oh, what watch is that?" "Oh, that's a Cartier." And their polite response was, "Oh, my wife would love that watch," because Cartier was not considered a real men's watch. And I think they've come a long way since. Hermes, who makes uber luxury handbags and wallets and $1,000 scarves and $400 espresso cups. Yep, I really wanted one of those cups one time, but not for $400. In 2000, I think it was 2006, Hermes started to go in-house. And since then, I think being seen on wrists such as Steph Curry from the Golden State Warriors, I think Hermes has come up a long way since the last decade. And I want to read something from the recent Esquire issue about the Cartier Tank, which I was unaware of. Look at that. That is just a gorgeous piece. But in this article of the recent Esquire issue, it says, "Legend has it that Louis Cartier based the design on France's F-1017 tank, and that looking to thank the American military for turning the tide in the Great War, he gave a prototype to General Pershing." And I thought that was a really interesting story in this article right here. But Cartier had that long and advantaged history with it, and the way that I'm going on about the Cartier tank, it would seem like for the win, it would be the Cartier. And it would have been that at the time of coming up with the idea of this show, but actually it's Hermes for the win. There is just something about this Hermes Cape Cod that I really like. I've seen this watch a few times. I could always tell that this was a well-made watch. This was not a fashion watch, and you could just tell that there was a lot of quality, and the build quality was there, and the leather strap that they use. Hermes uses some of the best quality leathers in the world because that's what they use it for their handbags and their wallets and other leather accessories. And so for me, there's just something about this Hermes. I like the name Hermes. I don't think Hermes carries the same stigma as, say, a Bulgari. So Hermes, to me, there's just something about that name and this look of this watch. And the second group of watch comparisons is between the Nomos Club Campus versus Christopher Ward. They both share that similar simple looking watch. They both use an in-house movement, and they're both priced between $1,500 to $1,700. Let's start with Christopher Ward. Christopher Ward started, I think it was 2004, and they were the first luxury watch company to begin selling watches online directly to us, the consumer, and by cutting out the middleman. So there is no distributors and no retail stores. And by doing that, they created a slogan, the cheapest, most expensive watch. And this was really marketing within marketing. If Christopher Ward came out with a watch that was, if they went that route of distribution and selling into retailers, we're talking probably about a $4,000 to $5,000 watch. And that would have been a lot riskier to introduce themselves as a new watch, as a $5,000 watch in the industry. Because for $5,000, our choices are wide open into any other watches. So this whole marketing of selling online directly to us and being the, quote, cheapest, most expensive watch was really marketing within marketing. And I think it's really clever. I think the Christopher Ward watches, they're actually well received on the watch forums. And they're actually pretty nice looking watches. They're both the Nomos and the Christopher Ward movements aren't. They're pretty simple. They do what they're supposed to do, and they're reliable. Christopher Ward is a Swiss watch with Danish designs. The designer is Danish, and Nomos is made in Germany. They both have that really nice, I think, an elegant look. They're both similar sizes. I think about 38, 39 mil. But here, for the win, Nomos. One of the advantages is that I can be able to handle a Nomos in one of the retailers if I want to really consider that watch. And Christopher Ward, I'm going to have to rely on its reputation from the watch forums and on their website. Looks like they've taken some of their cues from the Nomos marketing. And the third category is between Schofield versus Lindy Werdelin. And these are both big size watches. They're 44 millimeters. And some of you are aware that I'm not really a big fan of oversized watches, but I've always said there are exceptions, and these two brands are definitely exceptions. There's just something about these watches. Lindy Werdelin let's start with Lindy Werdelin. This is more about like a utilitarian type of a watch. Schofield is a very simple, almost like a toy looking watch, but it's hardly a toy watch. Neither one of these uses an in-house movement. Schofield uses the ETA 2824. Lindy Werdelin uses a modified source of movements. And they're both priced at about $3,000 to $4,000. And the Lindy Werdelin is just, they're handmade. Some of them are skeletonized. They're usually made out of titanium. Lindy Werdelin also uses gold. And Schofield is supposed to be reminiscent, their design of a lighthouse. And I really like the simple look on the Schofield watches. If you look at their website, this is a real lifestyle type of website for us guys and for watches. This is a one-stop shop for all. I mean, they sell Cuban cigars with nice carriers. They sell a wide variety of watch straps, everything from leather to rubber to like wool materials and herringbone and tweed, which is what I would use for the fall-winter season. I would use maybe like a tweed or a herringbone strap, and leather for the rest of the season. I'm not a really big fan of rubber straps. They also sell flashlights, really cool-looking flashlights. They have a lot of EDCs. They have coffees that are actually meant and blended for watch enthusiasts, and I have yet to try one of their coffee blends, but I'm going to have to definitely do that. So the Schofield is a really fun place for us to poke around and shop for our watches. Lindy Werdelin, Swiss brand. Schofield is a UK brand. For the win, it goes to Schofield. I think there's something about that Lindy Werdelin watches that is unlike any other watch. That industrial carved out sections in that watch is really, really appealing, and it's so so different. And if I continued the show, I might change my mind from the Schofield to the Lindy Werdelin. But for right now, the way the show is going to end, it's Schofield for the win. Thanks for watching, everyone, and I'll see you the next time. So look at the picture here of Michael Jordan. No, Cassius Clay. Muhammad Ali. Cassius Clay is Muhammad Ali. So, Lindy Werdelin for the win. Wait. So, Schofield for the win. And this is really close. Lindy Werdelin for the win. They're both really great watches. Got to come up with one though, man.